Welcome to the Monday Movie Club. Okay. This week Joel picked a foreign film for us. Ooh. Europa from 1990. I'm Frank Gaffney. With us as always, Joel Yussel. Is that your Hebrew name,
That's my
Yussel?
Hebrew name, Yussel. Yussel.
Okay. Annie King with glasses on.
Yeah, I have like a sty, so
Oh,
Aw.
that's annoying.
I'm avoiding my contacts.
Okay.
Smart.
I've been avoiding my contacts for 20 years.
Brunch.
Mark G. Abacus has no picture up. And Cringer and Goldfook. Were you holding him hostage? Go.
Free to go.
Be free.
Got Stockholm syndrome.
You or him?
Yes.
Joel, Europa. Why?
Really just to torture Mark with all the penis shots.
Not only penis shots, but it's a foreign film.
Yes.
Subtitles.
It's because it's a great film, I think. It's an important film, I think, and also because this group needs to continue to be mature and sophisticated, and you only get there by watching movies like this. So
I actually agree with you, Joel.
Which part?
all of it.
All of it.
A
Okay.
movie club like this, we should be watching movies like this.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the plot. A boy in Nazi Germany trying to conceal that he is Jewish joins the Hitler Youth. Not exactly. Okay, here's my notes while watching it. First of all, with the credits, there were lots of Polish names. So you know it's a foreign film. Written and directed by Agnieszka Holland. Right? Agnieszka?
Sure, if you want to anglicize it, that would be it.
What, how would you say it?
I believe it's based on what I remember hearing from a couple of the supplements on the disc I was watching. It's Agnieszka.
Agnieszka. Let's call her Aggie, shall
Aggie.
we?
Okay, not a problem.
And 4 minutes and 43 seconds in, we get penis and ass. And he's supposed to be 13. Yeah. I think that Aggie is a bit of a pervert. But classic foreshadowing. After he runs out naked, of course, the girl offers him a Nazi uniform to put on. And that's classic foreshadowing because no one will ever think you're Jewish if you're wearing a Nazi uniform. So the family decides to leave Germany because of the persecution, and they move to Poland. Ruh-roh. 13 years old, and he's banging the movie lady.
Yeah, she was a pervert.
And now Aggie, the director, is really a pervert. Okay, but the actor, I looked it up. He was 20 when they made the movie, but still. And so then the brothers leave Poland, and then they're separated. And Salek, who's our hero of the movie, our banging boy, ends up in Russia. And the actors who are playing the brothers are really brothers. I thought that was.
And I think that was their sister too, the one who died in the beginning.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
In real life, yeah.
And then he's banging a school teacher. Okay. And then we saw this guy who was, I assume, had alopecia with the bald and everything. And I thought, oh, that's the guy from Barry.
I did too.
I'm like, how is that possible? 1990, he didn't seem that old. Well, it wasn't him.
No, it wasn't him at all.
Ryan Stiles to me. That's who he looked like.
Well, I thought he looked like Anthony Corrigan, but he did not. He was not him. And then when they were all leaving Russia, was I the only one singing Anatevka?
Yes.
Yes.
You didn't think it? I totally thought it. All right. And the music kept reminding me of The Godfather.
It was reminding me of something.
I was like, that's The Godfather. And then it would change to something else. And then here comes the gay. Oh my. Of course, even the gay wants him. So he goes to grab his circumcised hoo-ha. And so Robert the gay goes from being a molester to being his brother. And then no spoilers. And then he's banging the escort. World War II was great for his sex life. And then finally, at the 1 hour mark, he joins the Hitler Youth. Took a whole hour to get there. And he gets assigned a roommate, and his roommate is named Schwartz. So may the Schwartz be with Jew.
That's good.
That's right.
That's
That's
good.
right. And then Julie Delpy,
Delpy.
who I know obviously from the Sunrise movies. She's 20 years old, but she was and then she's kissing him to the same Godfather music. And I'm thinking, wait till she sees his Braunschweiger, because she's very anti-Jew. And then, oh God,
Oh,
the
God.
mutilation.
Yeah.
Ouch, boys. Am I right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, okay. And I thought, if he bangs the mom too, I'm out. That's it. I'm
I the same thing. I thought that was going to happen, actually. Yeah.
And then he finally lands with back with the Russians, and he tries to convince them that he's Jewish. And I'm saying, just show him your mutilated penis. And then we get Deus Ex Isaacina, because his brother shows up, and we hear the theme from The Godfather again. And then there they are as a German guy goes by. They whip out their circumcised, proud Jewish penises and pee freely, because now they're no longer identifiable. So, and then that you see this old guy singing at the end. I'm like, what the hell is that? Who is this guy? And then it said,
Come on, I knew that
Yeah,
right
I
away.
kind of
I was like,
assumed
that's
it
the
was
real
the
guy.
you
real
knew it was the real guy right away?
Yeah, who else?
He's
was
listed
like-
first. He's listed first in the IMDb cast listing. I was like, he's got.
Well, when the credit came up, it said him, Solomon Peril. And I'm like, oh, okay. So that was.
I didn't even realize it was based on a true story, but I was like, I guess this is a true story.
Right. But I think, unlike, I've been immersed in World War II lately, because I watched Band of Brothers and The Pacific, and the movie that's coming up this week that I had to review on my 1001 movies to watch before I die was The Longest Day, which was all about D-Day. I'm like, I have so much World War II going on. So unlike some of those films, this one was kind of comedic, darkly comedic, and really Salak is portrayed more as a very passive and lucky survivor, instead of the usual tragic hero victim that we get. And and for him, it's his usual passage through adolescence here is very dangerous for him, being Jewish at this particular time. And quite frankly, our boy was saved by his penis.
Seriously.
And his identity is not, in this movie, very interesting to me, is not based on science or heritage, the racial science that Hitler was proposing, but rather just based all on his circumcised penis.
Hold on. I just want to say, I don't have this in my notes, but I love the part where they call him up to show that he's not a Jew.
Mark, while Frank was talking, I was thinking that exact scene. What a great scene that was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just shows how stupid that
Yeah.
mentality is. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
clearly he's not pure, but he's Aryan.
Yeah.
And how interesting that he can easily conform when it was all based on him having to survive. And so I think that too kind of distinguished it from other movies of this ilk. And the movie's very episodic. The characters just come and go, and he's thrown into these uncertain, dangerous, sometimes ironically, and more than once saved by a ridiculous thing happening. And it's based on a true story, right? So Solomon Peril and told his story, but I always think when you're telling your story, and I tell my story, you embellish on things, and you tell a story in a way that makes it entertaining, you feel, after telling these tales for so long. So how much of it is genuine, 100% fact, or just a schoolboy's thinking he could have banged all these people. But
I was
maybe
going to
he
say,
didn't.
if that
Want
was
me to
my
answer
story,
that?
I would have the same thing.
Want me to answer that question?
Everyone was,
You want to
everyone
answer that
wanted to bang
question
me
now,
too.
or
Go ahead, Joel.
so? Solomon Perel actually didn't tell his story until the 80s. He felt that if he told his story to anybody, they'd never believe it because it was so over the top ridiculous. And he wound up having a heart attack in the 80s, and he realized that the reason he was so physically ill was because the stress of keeping his story in was killing him.
Okay.
When he finally started talking about it, the stress alleviated, he got healthier, he unburdened himself of it. Now, obviously, when you are telling a story like that, you are going to embellish certain things, but it's also a movie that's based on the book that he wrote, so it becomes a Xerox of a Xerox of a Xerox almost as
Yeah.
they add things. So it's like he admits that the movie isn't 100% accurate to what happened. Aggie, the director, admits that they changed things, to make it a little more cinematic or story structurally probable. So, what's certain things are true, certain things aren't true. The sex and the romances are, he admits, are a little more fanciful, but so anyway.
I think in real life, instead of Robert being another soldier, it was a doctor who
Correct.
tried to molest him in the showers.
Yeah.
And then because they both had a secret, because Nazis don't allow homosexuality, so it was kind of like, I'll
Right.
keep your secret if you keep mine.
Right.
And the brother
Yeah,
at the end, the brother at the end, it wasn't so. I forget how they met up, but it wasn't the way they portrayed it in the movie. So,
Yeah, it's not like he was there when
miraculously.
he found his brother like a
Yeah,
year.
at the exact moment he needed to prove.
Right.
All right, but and I think really the true horror really is well beyond the Holocaust. It's how this ideology could reshape any human being, causing them to give up their identity just to survive. So I really enjoyed the movie. I'm giving it 3.5 stars. Thanks, Joel. I had never seen it before.
You're welcome.
All right, all right. Let's go to one of the other Jews. Aim, do you want to talk about your experience watching Europa? I'm assuming you've never seen it.
Out.
He's like, I'm not talking about Jew shit.
And you've never seen it.
I had never seen it. I remember it. I'd never seen it. And when I read in the trivia, and I read it multiple times yesterday, that Germany was embarrassed by it or whatever it was, that's why it was never put up for Best Picture foreign film. But they did allow it for Best Screenplay.
So it was a German film, not a Polish film.
Correct.
The German, yeah. And they were like, "Oh, we're not putting." Yeah, so that's why I never even got a chance to be
Yeah,
nominated.
they were like, we don't want to bring this up again. We're over it
already. I didn't even know what it was about until this week. So I didn't take any notes, but I did think, as you mentioned, the Deus Ex Machina, it was twice. And after the second one, I was like, oh God, now it's too much. The first one, you had mentioned the brother being the second one, but the first one was when he had to get his purity papers and he walked out and all of a sudden everything was bombed. So that's it, fixed. So that drove me a little crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
And also
that's why Solomon said nobody would believe it, but it happened.
Yeah, see, that was definitely a poetic or dramatic license thing. Oh God, what was I just gonna say? Oh, why would they cast Julie Delpy, who doesn't speak German, just to dub all her lines? It looked ridiculous. It drove me crazy. And same thing with the old lady, like the 45-year-old on the train who molested him, was not speaking German.
So here's the thing. I'll address that really quickly. The director said that it was easier for them because it's not just, yes, it's a German-backed production, but the cast and the crew were from all over Europe. There were Poles, there were French people, there were Germans. Everybody spoke their actual language and then they dubbed everybody as they needed to. So it was just easier for them to do the film that way.
It looked
It was
terrible.
noticeable. It was
Yeah.
Oh
noticeable.
God, yeah.
As an actor, I would have been like, what did she say to me?
Right.
So I know how to read my line down.
Yeah.
Right, right. And I think I don't remember if I had anything else. It might come to my memory when you guys talk, but I definitely would also give it 3.5 stars. Did enjoy it. Thank you for making us watch it.
Homework,
welcome.
homework.
Thank you for the homework. And it wasn't like long. It wasn't. But there were moments where I was like, all right, the scene is a little too long. Let's move it along. But even at just under 2 hours, it was fine.
But then you pause it on the penis parts.
Of course, of course. He was adorable. Oh,
He was adorable.
God.
He reminded me of the kid from Cinema Paradiso if he had grown up 10 years older. He looked Italian. His name is Mark.
I looked him up, and he had done some other films, but obviously didn't have the career that I thought he should have. All right, Mark G, no picture up. So was it a little torturous for you?
You're gonna be very surprised by my review. That's all I'll say. I will say that the opening with the bris, and unlike Amy, I have a lot of notes. So here we go. Opening with the bris was perfect since it was so central to the plot. His circumcised penis. I had no idea that I really had no idea that the Soviets were atheists and anti-Semitic. So
Yeah.
I actually kind of aligned with that. So I'm not really a God guy anymore.
Tommy. No.
Yeah, exactly. Call me a commie. Yeah. Yeah, I would have done that right in the old USSR. Stalin and Hitler's dance, that was way too artsy fartsy for me, and that kind of lost me a little bit. That was the only part of the movie though that I actually did not like. Everything else was all right. And can we all agree that that was the worst sex scene ever in cinema on the train with that lady? That was horrible.
I think it was supposed to be funny.
It was weird.
I was like, if you do the math, I was like, what is he thrusting into? Because she's not
Yeah.
at the right angle, and
I thought the same thing. Do the math. This ain't working.
And the same thing, it's already been said, but what's with every woman and some men just trying to jump his bones? I wish I had that, man. Holy crap.
Well, we all just said how adorable he was, so.
He was, and the actor was a good looking guy, yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny when Sally tried to escape the Germans for the Russians in the trench warfare, and then he wound up leading the charge. I mean, that was, I'm assuming for comedic effect there. Although I will say that his back and forth allegiances reminded me a little bit of Little Big Man, and I try to forget that movie, but I was like, it was kind of like how he was kind of like, hey, I'm an Indian, hey, no, let's go kill the Indians. Oh, I'm Russian, I'm German. Yeah. It was a little bit too much with that. I found it fascinating because it is based on a true story, and I certainly don't blame Sal for doing what he had to do to survive. So despite the subtitles, this being a war drama, and the 17 dicks that were in the movie, I'm actually going with 3.5 stars. And I think this kind of, now I want to go see, but in a couple months, Zone of Interest. That'll be next. No?
Yeah. I think while we're doing the rest of this, you need to find a picture.
It's not a movie that you're going to put a picture up of.
It's a 3.5 star movie. It gets a picture.
All right,
That's
fine.
the rule. Andy King. Mark is this many years old. He has to put glasses on to look at his computer.
I've been wearing glasses since the 3rd grade.
I think, is this the first time all 5 of us are wearing glasses at the same
Funny.
time?
It might be.
I like that.
Yeah.
We have 3 years into it. We have milestones we're creating.
We all look smarter.
Annie King, I'm assuming first time for you as well.
Yes, definitely. It's not my type of movie at all. It was educational. Some things I didn't know. I thought like those candies raining down from heaven was like so weird when he was at the school and they told the other guy to like ask for candies from heaven, and then, well, that was like such
this is the kind of mindfuck they did.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To the kids.
That was really very interesting.
Yeah.
it was just, for me, it was just like, ugh, I can't believe that he goes to the other side and then winds up being a hero. And then, like a lot of it was just so, well, isn't that convenient? So I could see why his brother said, like, don't tell anyone because no one will ever believe it because it seemed unbelievable. But I watched it. It was okay. So, yeah, not as big a fan as you guys. So I'm gonna go with 3.
Okay. The biggest Jew among us will now speak.
Hey,
You're not the biggest Jew among us?
I am just,
That way.
Just
that way.
I'm the
exactly.
most religious Jew among us.
You are.
Okay. I guess we're talking about like, in increments. So
Well, in this group, sure.
no, I'm saying in increments
Yeah.
because, I'm what, like if, Amy's here, I'm like,
That's not the
here,
picture. That's not the picture.
that's what Solomon Peril looked like,
Grown up.
grown
Grown
up.
up. Yes. And as a 30-year-old, he looked like Al Pacino.
There we go.
Okay.
That scene went on a little too long to me too. I'm like, hug him already. All right, Joel. Now you had seen this before.
Yes, I actually saw it in theaters when it came out, and I've seen it a few times since then. It's I'm one of those Jews that is fascinated by World War II and the background and everything that happened, and that's the
So
history.
I assume you've seen The Pacific and Band of Brothers.
I've seen Band of Brothers. I have not seen the Pacific yet.
It was good.
Yeah, but that's also more different part of the war than
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
my interest is.
No Jews were involved.
No, or if they were, you don't know about it because it's just they're part of that band of brothers in the Pacific. So
Right, generic Band of Brothers.
I really liked the movie when I first saw it, and I still really like the movie. It is very episodic, and I agree with everybody that it is unbelievable at times. When he is going to get his papers and the bomb drops on the building right after he walks out and everything's gone, and even it's not just everything's gone. His friend that was also stooping his girlfriend and got her pregnant is now dead because of that bombing. So, it kind of opens up a whole different kind of can of worms. But the thing that I find fascinating about the film and Sally's story is that you think about the concept of acting and how an actor portrays a character on stage or in a film and how that works. And what kind of mental hoops and strains did he have to go through to do this, to survive in the way he did? And it's interesting because there's an interview with him from 2019 on the Criterion disc, where he talks about that. Because after he started telling his story, he actually did eventually go back to Germany, and he reconnected with Lenny and some of the kids he was in the Hitler Youth School with as older men. And they were friends, and they even said to him, "How did you,
Jew,
how
having
did
Jew.
you, because we just we were with you 24/7." He's like, I believed everything you believed. I
Right.
I had no choice. That's where my brain had to go. He said to Lenny, if you had, if we were out walking that day and I had said to you that I was Jewish, she's like, I would have turned you in.
Right.
That's
Right.
how it was.
And of course, men being men, very consciously try to not look at other men's penises. So
Right.
he was able to get away with it.
Yeah, I mean, he says that he would go into stalls when he could. He'd shower with his back to them,
Well,
facing
that
the
one kid
wall.
was showering with his underwear
He
on.
said he did that a number of times.
Yeah.
It's just he did what he had to do to, and it's interesting. You guys mentioned, the director being a bit of a pervert. Her audio commentary starts with her talking about his penis.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
Because that's, as Mark said, that the film opens with a bris, and that is a central concept of the film, is that this one body part is what could potentially do him in the entire time. So it's
Yeah,
interesting to
but
me
Mark has that same problem, but for a different reason.
right. The fact that the film is essentially bookended by a bris and then he and his brother peeing together.
A bris and a piss.
Yeah.
Chris and a piss. That's great.
It's I think it's fascinating on so many levels because of that, and it's important because we are now, Solomon Perel unfortunately passed away last year at the age of 97.
Wow.
There are not a lot of Holocaust survivors left in the world, and when they are gone, there is not going to be anybody to verify stories. Yes, we will have films like this, but they will be questioned by everybody because they are films. Yes, we'll have documentaries, but they will be questioned by people because this is what happens. And I'm within a generation or two, I'm concerned. I'm concerned now that we already are heading in directions that could potentially repeat all of this, not just against Jews, but against other ethnicities and minorities and walks of life. And it's sad that we as a human race don't know how to, haven't evolved past it. I will get off my soapbox.
I think it's a
No,
very good
I
point,
think
Joel.
I think it's a soapbox we're all on.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It's this is one of the times where I forced myself to get through all the supplements that were on the disc. There weren't a lot. It was director's commentary, interviews with the director, with Marco Hofschneider, the actor, and Solomon Perel, and a video essay by a film critic. They were all very interesting. They all had interesting things to say about the film and how he was able to survive, and talking about the concepts. Apparently the original rough cut of the film was about 4 hours long. And she knew she had to cut it down, and she did. Her regret is that the footage is actually gone. She really wished that they still had the footage. Not that she'd make a director's cut to make it longer. She just thought it'd be interesting for people to see some of the scenes that they did cut, because it was even more episodic.
I heard it was another hour just of his penis.
Right, probably. So some of the interesting backstories that I found is originally Marco's brother, who plays his older brother Isaac in the film, was cast as Salak, but they wanted somebody who could play him both younger and older, and he was too old to do that, and it was actually kind of pissed off that he thought he was bringing his brother in to play the younger version and he'd play the older version.
Yeah.
Right?
And
This is my ass licking audition.
yeah, and unfortunately they changed it, and he wound up playing the brother instead.
Yeah, well, he never looked 13 to me. That's for sure.
No, he didn't, but it would have looked worse because his brother's 9 years older than him. So
Right.
he'd be the 30-year-old.
He definitely looked older for sure.
Yeah. I'm fascinated by, you do kind of have to have a bit of a working knowledge, I think, and it's a detriment to the film, at least the way it's constructed, of what the realities of the war at the time was, because it's like, okay, they left Germany because of Kristallnacht, which was in October of 38, and fled to Poland, but Poland was invaded a year later. And then it was like, okay, we have to leave Poland. And then they fled into Russia because the Russians and the Nazis had a pact, which Hitler then broke, which is why they're running back. It's, you kind of have to have a working knowledge of that to understand why there's all that back and forth.
Yeah, no, it didn't. It didn't really. I didn't know that, and it didn't
Okay.
really confuse me at all. I just assumed they had to go for some reason, not that they were just running around.
Okay.
So yeah, it didn't bother me.
Okay. Well, that's a good thing then. For me, I thought that maybe people needed a little more historical
Backstory.
context.
Yeah.
The only other thing that I found interesting from all of that I'll add, and it's just a production story, the scene in the pool where he's first of all, when he falls into the river when they're trying to cross, he obviously he's not a good swimmer, but yet by the time he's in the Hitler Youth School and they're having to swim across the pool in their complete uniform with helmets and equipment and everything, he's gotten to be better. They only had that pool that was in a real building at the time for a day. So that swastika that's at the bottom of the pool was a giant metal cutout. It's not like they drained the pool, painted the swastika on, refilled the pool.
Right.
They sunk a giant metal swastika down to the bottom of the pool and attached it for the shooting of the day of shooting. And when they removed it, apparently it left a bit of an
Swastika holes.
an outline of sorts. And the next day, the school actually had a swim meet.
That's funny.
That explained what was going on.
In that swastika pool.
Yeah. So
That's funny.
Yeah, right. A film crew came in.
right.
Exactly.
Anyway, I'm gonna give the film 3.75. I almost was like, oh, Annie gave it a 3. I have to give it a 4 to balance everything out, but I can't do that because I think the episodic nature of the film is at times a bit to its detriment. That's not to say that it makes the film the worst film in the world. It just it's not. It stops it from being a 4-star film in this case. So
I also thought it was interesting that Mark compared it to Cinema Paradiso, which we also watched, in that episodic nature of the movie and the adolescent growing up.
Right.
It did have a little vibe of that for sure.
Well, it's definitely it's a very odd coming of age story because of the when and how it all happens. So
yeah,
I have a dumb question here. How exactly did the sister die on Crystal Knock? Was she hit with a stone? It didn't really say.
They don't tell you. She was
I would assume it was just shrapnel from them throwing shit.
Not necessarily. There were Jews that were pulled out of the crowds and beaten to death.
Yeah,
or shot by the Nazis. There was a lot that happened that night, and
she looked like she was hit. She looked like she had a bloody Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully you're still here and you're willing to watch this movie. It is a good one. We obviously recommend it. It's available on Max if you subscribe. Next week is my turn, and I have been making an effort to make us more current in our selections. So we're actually going to watch Jerry Seinfeld's directorial debut, Unfrosted, which is only on Netflix, which 269 million people have. So should be able to watch it. Or just call Amy and she'll give you her password.
Oh, sure.
And then they'll shut it down because you're not supposed to do that anymore.
Yeah. I am Frank Gaffney. Go watch this movie.
And also with you.